Law number 9, win through your actions, never through argument. In this chapter, the author is emphasizing that your tongue could be a very destructive thing. An argument always would end up against you. So rather than arguing with your enemies or the people you want to take power of, do it through your actions, not through your words. And there are very nice stories given in this chapter on it. For example, Michelangelo created one beautiful sculpture out of a rock, which was marble rock, which was going vein. It had a hole in the center, but still he was able to create a wonderful sculpture. And one of the person who was about to take a decision to install that felt that the nose of that sculpture is not in the proportion. So without arguing with that person in the power, Michelangelo just went up on the sculpture. It was a big sculpture, and tried to chisel it out, and he actually didn't chisel the sculpture. And the person felt that okay, Michelangelo did change the nose, and then Michelangelo asked again, now how about, does it look okay? And he said yes. And similar example is given where a wonderful architectural building was built by a famous architect, and the mayor of that city still didn't like it, thinking that the second floor would come on first floor where his office resided. So he enforced that please create couple of more pillars. So the architect actually created a fake two pillars, never touching from first floor ground floor to the first floor ceiling. So the idea here is that never argue, always do it through your action, prove it through your action, because people have this sentiment where they'll come back to their own nature even after argument, and if you try to convince them, they'll still come back to the same conclusion which they had for you. Now the reversal of this is, if you are caught up in doing some deception, or if you are caught lying to someone, at that point you can always argue. And one funny story on this has been given as part of the reversal segment. So the conclusion is never argue, show it through your action. Law number 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. The chapter describes from its name, its title. There is a famous example from one of the lady from Ireland, Miss Lola, that has been accounted in this chapter to emphasize that whenever you get associated with the unfortunate or the unlucky or unhappy rather, it takes away all of your energy, and your path to derailment just starts, and then you end up in a very bad situation. And it has been through this Lola's example, it has been shown that she was associated with multiple powerful people as a woman or a charmer or as a lover, and all of them ended up in very bad taste, ended up at very bad positions. So always stay away from people who suck your energy, and in reverse, always try to have people who are very charming, who are very happy, that brings that energy with them. For example, Napoleon always had someone called Talleyrand around him, who was very people's charmer, very happy person, very articulated. And Napoleon over the years learned all these good skills from this individual. So to summarize, these unfortunate people suck away your energy. So always stay away from the unfortunate, however strong you feel to help them, always try to stay away from them. And there is no reversal of this law. This is applicable universally, meaning never try to associate yourself with people who are unhappy. Law number 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. In this law, author highlights that it's always a good practice for not to disclose all of your strength or all of your expertise. Let people depend on you and let them come to you whenever they need the help. To make an analogy of this law or to explain this law, a couple of examples, interesting examples, one from Italy and one from France has been given, where one of the soldier in Italy actually saved the entire town from a foreign attack, but he was killed just because people in that town wanted to worship this particular gentleman the best way possible. So because that soldier didn't knew how to let them depend on him, he actually ended up giving up his life. And the second example was from the Prussian example, not from the French. Bismarck, who used to advise king's family, he became prime minister later, and he always gave indirect power to the king's family, but always on his term. He always made sure that they come to him. And then example from Michelangelo has been given. So Michelangelo has this tendency of something called intensive power, where he used to be very good at his art, so he never depended on others, but others were depending on him. While in the counter example, there is something called extensive power, where people like Henry Kissinger would do a lot of connection between different departments, different expertise, and that causes him to become generic. So those are the people where they also depend on the others. And the conclusion of this chapter is, if you want to be intensive like Michelangelo or JP Morgans of this world, it's very difficult at certain point to become completely independent. It's always good to have an interdependence dependency between each other. You, by the virtue of having people depend on you, you become a free in a way.